now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other two books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. I got a chance to take a look at Transformers 1 this weekend on Paramount Plus. And I'd have to say that this is one of the best Transformers movies I have ever seen in my life. And I was 13 years old when I saw Transformers the movie in 1986. And I remember being deeply disappointed when I saw that Transformers movie. But this Transformers movie that came out in 2024, 40 years after the Transformers came to television, put a smile on my face and showed me how much fun Transformers are, and this film, I believe, would have been the thing that led to a new generation of youngsters finding out how great the Transformers story is had it been able to be marketed properly to become the success at the box office it should have become. Now, what's really sad about Transformers 1 is that this movie didn't get that opportunity to reach its audience and become the blockbuster I believe it could have become, because the studio basically just did not know how to market this film effectively. Now, Transformers 1 basically captures the spirit and joy that everybody had in 1984 when the Transformers debuted in syndication, and basically makes the story of the Transformers fresh and new for a new generation of young fans to go out here and experience and enjoy the way many of us Gen X kids did back in 1984. Now, this new version of Transformers that was established with Transformers 1 was supposed to create an origin story for the Transformers and reintroduce everyone to all of these characters, and everything here basically was just absolutely fantastic as related to the execution of concept, where we see that the Transformers planet Cybertron basically is a transformer in and of itself, tied to the old Transformers religion lore of Primus, the god of Transformers, and that Primus transformed himself into this planet, filled it with energon, and as it was filled with energon, was supposed to be a world where all of these bots known as the Transformers could basically live in harmony. Unfortunately, what happened to the planet is that as this power was given to the Primes, eventually there was some sort of issue, and as this issue happened, what happened is something happened with the Primes, and the only one left was Sentinel Prime, and he's basically out here trying to find out what happened to things. That's what he tells everyone as he's got bots working in the mines, and the whole story revolves around these two bots, Orion Pax and other one, D16, who basically we have Orion Pax, who's much of an optimist and a dreamer, and this optimist and dreamer is one that wants to find out what happened to the matrix of leadership that basically is the core of the whole situation with the Primes and Cybertron. And as you have Orion Pax looking to try to solve this mystery, you have him and his best friend D16 trying to rise up the ranks of the social hierarchy of the world of the Transformers, where the Transformers who have their cogs basically are the ones who can transform and are considered of a higher social status, and basically they're living in this whole place where there's a city of Iacon, and as they're living in the city of Iacon with Sentinel Prime running things, they're trying to, again, come up in this whole social hierarchy. And there was just, again, a whole lot of fun with the story, a whole lot of fun all around. I really like the development of the relationship between Orion Pax and D16. I like that you had Orion Pax being this optimist, and then you had D16, who was a little bit cynical. And I also like the way they brought in Alita 1 as related to being a supervisor. And everybody's role basically fit the natural roles of boys and girls. You had this boys who basically again were out here looking to go out on adventures. You had the girls who were basically they thinking that they're bossy and telling on people. That's what Alita 1 really reminded me of. She reminded me a lot of a relationship between a young boy and a young girl. And the story really just, I like the way that it developed over the course of the movie. I like the way it basically just, you saw these characters evolve and as they go on this journey. And I also like the fact that they had Bumblebee or B220, whatever his name is. I mean, he was basically a misfit guy. He's like the nerdy kid who nobody wants to play with. And everything really comes together as they go on this quest for the Matrix. And as they go on this quest for the Matrix, it's just a really great story, which creates a world out of Cybertron, shows us what happened as this world is going on. And I love that everything just builds into this plot as related to this mystery of what's behind the Matrix. And eventually everything builds up in this story to a series of plot twists that are just absolutely fun to find out. And I love the way that they mixed the Transformers lore into everything. I love how they said that the Decepticon symbol, the way they built the story of how we got the Decepticons with the whole thing with Megatronus being the leader that Megatron admired as related to the Primes, and how he basically, his whole plan was based on this deception that is related to what was happening here as related to a plot twist with Sentinel Prime. I mean, that was just really great storytelling, and I like the way we got the formation of the Autobots, and again, everything tying together. I mean, everything in this film ties all of the Transformers lore together into something new and fresh. Something new and fresh I knew kids would have enjoyed as related to this film had they gotten an opportunity to watch it, and possibly could have led to huge sales for Hasbro had they just had a little bit of understanding of how the entertainment business works, because this film was just absolutely fantastic from start to finish, and absolutely fantastic because every part of this film was just fun to watch. I mean, when I was watching this film, I really just enjoyed everything about this movie. I mean, Transformers 1, as I see it, would have been a fantastic entry point for anybody as related to Transformers lore. If they were a young kid, it would have just been a jumping on point for kids. And it's just a treat for us older Transformers fans like myself. I really loved all the G1 references. I loved all the movie references. I loved all the Beast Wars references and everything in between. I mean, if you have been following Transformers for as long as I have been following Transformers, this Transformers 1 movie just basically gives you everything in all as related to the entire lore and makes it real fresh. And as I was watching it, it really reminded me of the art of Bill Walko, who does my covers for ISIS and Esteem. One of the things that drew me to his work was basically how he took characters from the DC universe and made them fresh with just putting a new take on the characters' designs as related to many of them and making them fresh and unique. And that's what I saw here with Transformers 1. It basically made Transformers new for a new generation of viewers, made Transformers something new and accessible to them. I mean, if you've never ever played with Transformers in your life and you watch this movie, this would easily be something you could basically learn everything as related to the Autobots and the Decepticons, and would have been the great starting point for all of those kids who are of this new generation who are coming up. But sadly, what wound up derailing this movie, what wound up derailing this movie overall, is just plain old Hasbro and Paramount not understanding the film business, because what really, again, derailed this movie was, one, this trailer, which basically dumbed down this rich, complex story, and two, was the marketing and release of this film. Now, this trailer basically made this film look like it was a silly, childish movie, and while this movie has some kind of MCU-style humor, it doesn't really get in the way. In some cases, it really reminds me a lot of Woody and Buzz Lightyear in Toy Story, more so than the MCU. And everything as related to the humor isn't that bad because it doesn't really get in the way of the story. No, this story was really good, but if they had put the right clips in this movie to make it more action oriented, you would have had a blockbuster at the box office. But unfortunately, the marketing messed it up, and the release date made it even worse. Now, what really impeded this film's ability to be that blockbuster that Moana 2 currently is that Transformers 1 was released in the early part of October, and anyone who knows the entertainment industry like I do, and I've studied the entertainment industry for over 25 years, you know, you never release a movie in early October if you want it to be a blockbuster, especially a film with kids or designed to appeal to kids, because what happens is when you release that movie in October, the audience isn't there to see it because usually the period from August to early October is considered a dumping ground for trash movies. That's what studios usually do. This is why they usually release horror movies around this time and other types of movies, because they know that most of the audience basically isn't available to go see the movies, because August, as related to the South and the West Coast, is where people are starting to go to school. And usually around October, early October, people are in the middle of taking their early exams. So people aren't really ready to go see any movies who are young at this point. So usually you don't release a movie there unless you think it's a bomb. And that's where the people at Hasbro and Paramount made their mistake with this movie, because this movie should have been released in the periods like May or basically on July 4th weekend. That's when this movie should have been released if you wanted to go for a spring or summer release. Or if you wanted to do it for the holiday season, you would have released this movie on the week of Thanksgiving, and it possibly could have given Moana 2 a nice run for its money, because this film was, again, absolutely fantastic, and it basically was another progression as related to American animation. What I was really disappointed with this film was that we never got to see any sort of progress with American animation, which still just keeps staying in the world of kiddie fare, whereas in countries like Japan and countries like many other countries like Korea, they have, again, a more richer, complex storytelling like we get in Transformers 1. They have richer, more multi-dimensional storytelling as related to their animated programming. And Transformers 1, like many other great American animated films that decide to go out here and step out of the box, such as the 1980s film Fire and Ice. I mean, those films, again, they can't get any traction in America as related to things, but those films had innovations as related to creating richer, more complex storytelling, and Transformers 1 did a great job of giving us a much more richer, more complex story, and gave us rich, multi-dimensional characters. I mean, this story was exceptionally well written, and what's really sad is that, again, American audiences just every time they make an animated film that just tries to put some more depth and complexity to the storytelling, that film really can't get any traction at the box office. And it's really sad, because in countries like Japan, if you had put this film out, the anime fans would have eaten this film up. If you had sent this film to Korea, they would have loved it. But sadly, here in America, American audiences still cannot go out here and reach a great film like this. Again, a great film that basically would have taken Transformers to another level, taken Transformers to that next level as related to things, and taken American animation in a direction it should have been gone into 40 years ago, when films like Fire and Ice were being made. I mean, when Fire and Ice were being made, that film, Black Cauldron, and many others. I mean, they've tried to move American animation into a direction where we could get richer, more complex films like they do in Japan, such as Ghost in the Shell and Go 13, which was made all the way back in 1983. I mean, we don't get that type of complexity that we got in Transformers 1, and Transformers 1 was, again, an absolutely great film, that I believe, again, just took the Transformers lore and made it just fresh and new. It's just an absolutely fantastic film, and I'm hoping that more people can be able to discover this film on Paramount Plus. I mean, because when I'm looking at the direction of Transformers movies, it was going in the right direction. Rise of the Beast basically was a Transformers episode come to life on screen from the 1980s, and basically again captured the spirit of the old G1 Transformers and gave us that Beast Wars crossover we wanted from the Beast Wars episode in season 3. That's what I loved about that movie. And Transformers 1 basically, again, continues to take the Transformers in the right direction. I would rather have another Transformers 1 than have these crappy ADHD Michael Bay Transformers movies. I would rather have another movie like this. This was just absolutely great and really shows us the foundations of the war on Cybertron and everything that happened before the Transformers left Cybertron as related to their battles. And basically, again, this film is just absolutely fantastic from first frame to the last, and I can highly recommend you go see Transformers 1. It's one of the best movies of 2024. It should be considered for an Oscar for Best Animated Film. It should be considered for a Golden Globe for Best Animated Film. This film basically elevates the medium of computer animation and animation overall. This film is a cinematic masterpiece as I see it, and just it just is fantastic all around. I can't stop gushing about this movie because it's basically a love letter to the Transformers and the lore, and gives this generation of kids everything that I loved about these toys back when I was 11 years old in 1984, and basically bridges generations and shows us why Transformers are just fun toys from generation to generation, and how the story of the Transformers is one that's basically on the road to being timeless. The story of good and evil, the story of right and wrong. I mean, this is what I wanted to see in a Transformers movie ever since I was a kid, and I'm happy that this generation finally gets to see the Transformers movie I wanted to see all the way back in 1986 when they made that disastrous Transformers movie with all that death and destruction. I'm really happy that I finally get to see that Transformers movie that I always wanted to see in '86 made today. And 40 years ever since the Transformers came to the marketplace, I'm happy to see they finally made a Transformers movie that basically you can take the whole family to see, and one that I would definitely recommend you could go out here and sit and enjoy with all of your family in front of your TV as related to watching it on streaming. And this is one movie I want to watch again, and I possibly will watch it again this weekend after Beetlejuice. I just love this movie, and this is one that I definitely see if it was out on VHS back in '86, people would be playing this till it wore the tape out. That's how good this movie is, and I definitely recommend you go out here and see Transformers 1, because this is the one movie you need to see this year and possibly continue to see as long as it's on streaming. Now, my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, is available on Lulu.com right now, and you can pick up a paper copy of the John Haynes comic by clicking the link in the description box and get it for the same price as the 2022 Kickstarter. And if you want to check out my other comic, A Steam No Good Deed, it's available on Kindle for 99 cents with Bill Walko's fantastic art. And you can pick up many of the books in the SJS Direct Universe, such as those in the ISA series, such as those in the Steam series, such as those in the John Haynes series, and my Goth trilogy, the Spinsterella trilogy, and my sorority novel, The Thetas, and my vampire novel, Eternal Night. You can find all those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online booksellers like Draft the Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And if you want to see me be able to watch and review more movies in science fiction and fantasy and superhero genre, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App so I can continue to have the funds to pay for the streaming services to watch these movies and be able to review them by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available on Lulu. John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at lulu.com today. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteem Horror in the Hamptons. The aspiring angel tries to escape a house of horrors in this action-packed, all-new Esteem series adventure. Get your copy of Esteem Horror in the Hamptons in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.